the strategy behind the headlines. And rocket launchers with leader Kim Jong-un watching. More on that after the break here on China in Focus. When I drink it, the first thing U.S. lawmakers are now asking the Commerce Department to look into a new U.S. business tied to China's drone maker DJI. The move is part of Washington's efforts to tighten scrutiny on businesses and their affiliates that are linked to the Chinese Communist Party. The House China panel sent a letter to U.S.-based company Anzu Robotics last Tuesday, saying it appears that DJI is using Anzu as a pass-through company in an attempt to avoid current and anticipated U.S. restrictions on DJI products. The lawmakers pointed out that the U.S. company has a drone model that's almost the same as the DJI product, and that could expose U.S. know-how to Chinese manufacturers. The panel believes this could put U.S. national security at risk. DJI is already blacklisted by the U.S. Commerce Department, as the company shares close ties to the Chinese regime and its military. Anzu CEO stated that the company is willing to comply with the investigation. Next, Pacific Island states have endorsed an Australia-funded plan to enhance policing capability in the region. It's valued at hundreds of millions of dollars. The plan comes as Canberra focuses on reducing China's influence in the Pacific. Let's zoom in. Australia previously said there should be no role for China in policing the Pacific Islands. Canberra pledged over $270 million in funding the Pacific Policing Initiative. The plan will create a multi-country police force that can be deployed to countries for major events or emergencies. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese also said it will set up 4 police training centers across the Pacific, as well as a separate hub in Brisbane, a city on Australia's coast. It's worth noting China has been a major infrastructure lender in the region. It's now seeking a greater role in the military and policing, and even digital connectivity and media. How seriously does the Chinese Communist Party take the Indo-Pacific region? China spent $15.3 billion on drills in the Indo-Pacific last year. That's about 7% of its defense budget. Reuters reported that figure, estimated by internal research from Taiwan's armed forces. Taiwan's defense ministry compiled a report earlier this year. The reports track China's naval and air missions in 2023. The estimated costs, not fully inclusive, but include fuel, supplies, maintenance, repairs, and salaries. China's military spending in 2023 totaled $220 billion, about 1/4 of the U.S. military budget. Worth noting, China's data did not include the spending in the private sector that also gets used to boost the Chinese military. Taiwan's defense ministry said, quote, "The Chinese Communist Party's enormous military investment in recent years indeed has a negative impact to the peace and stability in the region." It added that the spending is not conducive to global prosperity and development. The Philippines and China are accusing each other of ramming vessels and performing dangerous maneuvers in the South China Sea. It's the latest flare-up after the two nations agreed last month to better manage disagreements at sea. Here's more.
Unidentified foreign vessel at Sabina Shoal.
The incident occurred near Sabina Shoal in the early hours of Monday morning. China's Coast Guard said a Philippine vessel had ignored repeated warnings and had deliberately collided with its boat in an unprofessional and dangerous manner. The Philippines disputed Beijing's account, accusing it of imposing its version of facts. It said 2 Coast Guard vessels had encountered unlawful and aggressive maneuvers from Chinese vessels, resulting in structural damage to both vessels. The Chinese Coast Guard released this video of the incident, showing what it said was a Philippine Coast Guard ship deliberately ramming one of their vessels. The Philippines said the video is misleading. Here's the Philippines South China Sea Task Force spokesperson Jonathan Malaya.
Despite these incidents, both Philippine Coast Guard vessels remain committed to and shall proceed with their mission of delivering essential supplies to personnel stationed on Patag and Lawak Islands. The Philippine Coast Guard stands firm in its responsibility to ensure the safety and security of our maritime domain while addressing any and all threats to our national interest.
Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning said China would continue to take lawful, resolute, and forceful measures to safeguard its territorial sovereignty, maritime rights, and interests. The US has condemned the incident and said it stands by the Philippines. Sabina Shoal is in the Spratly Islands, which are claimed by China, the Philippines, Taiwan, and Vietnam.
North Korea tested multiple rocket launch systems Tuesday. State media released several images, one showing leader Kim Jong-un watching the launch, another showing rockets going up, then exploding. The images have not been independently verified. They come as South Korean and U.S. forces carry out annual exercises. On the other hand, North Korea has not taken part in recent military exercises with countries that support it, like China and Russia. North Korea is testing what are referred to as suicide drones. They're a type of weapon widely used in Ukraine and the Middle East. Here's a closer look.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un oversaw a test of homegrown so-called suicide drones over the weekend. That's according to state media on Monday, which released these images said to show Kim inspecting the drones on Saturday at North Korea's Drone Institute and looking on as they took off and destroyed test targets, including a mock tank. Also known as loitering munitions, they attack by crashing into the target with a built-in warhead. Such weapons have been widely used in the war in Ukraine as well as in the Middle East. The report said Kim urged researchers to develop artificial intelligence for the unmanned vehicles and called to ramp up production of suicide drones, including those that can be used underwater, as well as reconnaissance and multi-purpose attack drones. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff said on Monday they were monitoring North Korea's military activities and were prepared for any provocations. When asked about visual similarities between some of the drones in the images from Kim's Saturday visit and those used and produced by Russia, a spokesperson said more analysis was necessary.
Now we turn to Hong Kong. As a former British colony, the city's residents lived in freedom and under the Western rule of law. But since it was handed back to the Chinese Communist Party, concerns have been rising about an erosion of rights there. Beijing has been intensifying its grip on the city for years. More and more people are moving out of Hong Kong, and businessmen there are also distancing from China. One of them is Hong Kong's richest man, Li Ka-shing. His company, CK Group, is ramping up its European operations and scaling back its reliance on China. Nikkei Asia reporting that a subsidiary of CK Group applied for a secondary listing on the London Stock Exchange. On top of that, the group bought a number of companies in Europe, spanning sectors like property, ports, telecommunications, electricity, retail, and finance. The company said that investment decisions are made based on better returns, not location. Economist Xi Ling told Radio Free Asia that the move shows Hong Kong investors are pessimistic about China's economic outlook. That's all for today's China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. If you have any feedback on the show or have something you'd like to see us cover, send us an email at chinainfocus@ntd.com. We'd love to hear from you. Around